So this is the afternoon session where we talk on research and clinical trials. The first presentation, again, it's a little bit of repetition from yesterday, but for those who are not in the room, I have changed it slightly just to make it a little bit more interesting. But obviously, one of our third strategic pillar, from awareness to access to now research and patients in research, this is a very important one for us. But, you know, it is, and for the people who were not in the room yesterday, you know, what is INCA's role in this? What is INCA's role in being able to influence neuroendocrine tumour research or advancements in research? I think it will evolve depending on what projects that we actually do, and we've spoken about, obviously, you know, we want to build patient advocates, and I'll be going through that. We want seats at the table around talking about the design of trials, but potentially, you know, our goal, you know, very many years ago was, you know, could we even fund young investigators? Is that a possibility? We do that at a national level. What is it that we could potentially do? I think for the interest of what we're talking about with projects now, that's not what we are able to do, because we are doing that at national levels, which is great. But I'll just go through some of the things that we're doing. So this is the research committee, and I thank all of those, and for those who are not here with us. But it is such an important committee, we believe, and it's something that's actually newly formed. So we've had 2 meetings this year. We've always obviously had a focus on awareness and the access now, and now research. So obviously our mission is to collaborate better across the globe to ensure patient knowledge of participation in clinical trials, to secure more support for neuroendocrine tumour research, if that's lobbying at a local level and a global level. We hope that this access piece that we have will really help to drive potentially more support in that area. And to involve the patient voice in the advocacy and the design of the clinical trials. So we know that it's needed. From our unmet needs research that we did, it was in agreement that, you know, global collaboration for trials is really important, data is so important, and we need more funding. And this was agreed to by our healthcare professionals as well. They 57% believe that, you know, patients are not involved enough in research. So we're on the same page there. We have a shared view, but what can we do about it? So we have had some success in the last while around at least identifying and being able to have a presence at these really big meetings. So we've had we're developing the registry on the website to try and see where are our patients, who are they? We're developing a clinical trials page on the website as well. And as I mentioned yesterday, we wanted to potentially be a registry, or, you know, like clinicaltrials.gov, to try and make it easier to find neuroendocrine tumour trials. But we may also take a step before that and actually just start talking about what are clinical trials, what are the importance of clinical trials, and what happens in clinical trials, and what happens to your care in the future based on clinical trials. So we've developed a research plan. We've had presentations and posters at all the annual conferences last year. So we had oral presentations of the unmet needs at the Asia Pacific meeting, the North America meeting, ComNets, ESMO, and ENETS. We were the winner of the Best Poster Award, which is fantastic. And we had also a presence at the first leadership workshop. And we also now, I'm excited to say, after yesterday, which I didn't know, we now have 2 representatives on the ENETS advisory board, which is great. We have discussions in progress with our potential key partners, and we hope that there may be a World Net Summit focusing on global collaboration. I guess, you know, from what we see in the room, we collaborate really well. We collaborate with patient organisations around the world. We provide resources, this is what we try to do, but we will continue to do. So how can we see duplication in research sometimes, we see what each country's doing. So ideally we would like to see more of a global collaboration in research so that we can try and minimise this duplication, because we pretty much cover off a lot of patients within these patient organisations. So we could really help with, driving recruitment to these trials. And I think that's one of our key strengths that we can do. So our goals are to inform and connect patient community, the outcomes and process of clinical trials, as I mentioned, through the website. We want to develop a net patient research advocacy bootcamp. So we know Patty does a fabulous job with that, and I know people who have gone through that course, which is extraordinary. But what we're thinking of doing is probably something a bit more basic, a bit more like what we're describing about learning about what is the HTA process, what is it like to be on a trial, and really try and have these net patient sort of experts across the globe that if they are called upon, they will be ready to be used in research as well as in lobbying as well. So to reinforce the importance of patient involvement in the design and setting priorities, as I said in the last presentation, if we have patients in the design, wouldn't it be easier to then get the access as well? So it sort of, we want a seat at the table from the start. We had a really interesting conversation with Dr. Piero yesterday, especially around, obviously he's been involved in many trials, especially around recruitment and retention. Where's the travel costs that we need to cover? I'm looking over there now. Travel costs for clinical trials. We can get patients into the trials, but can we retain them? Because there's so many barriers to keeping them in there. There's so many barriers that really could be overcome quite easily. And Dr. Piero was talking about, just providing Ubers to take patients to the trials. Well, he actually was talking about they had ambulances taking patients to the trials, but an Uber account to pick up patients. We've spoken about it at another time, having pet sitters. That's a whole other thing, but for that particular demographic of patients, they didn't want to leave their pets, unattended. So having pet sitters, that could be, an option that no one really thinks about in the trial design unless a patient brings it up and says, I can't participate in that for this reason, and they can be overcome. And in the scheme of things, when you're developing a drug or a trial, that's a very minimal cost to maintain the patients on these trials. So we want to be able to help you retain these patients on the trials because we understand how hard it is to even get these trials up and running. So I'm going to really touch on very quickly because we have a fantastic speaker on the line, so I won't take up much more time. But we spoke about the boot camp yesterday, and this is just some of the results that I was able to just quickly pull out. Thank you, Christina. So what we did was a quick survey, and as I said, we're going to keep this survey open just for the members until the end of the week. We've had 15 member organisations respond. How would you rate the bootcamp idea? Obviously, that's something that we really wanted to know, and we're glad that the majority was excellent, and they would like to participate. And I haven't included some of the other data of, would they participate? Would they put up a member to participate? That was all yes. So that's fantastic. We just asked the question, how do you think net patients at the moment currently train themselves in research or finding out about clinical trials? And a lot of it was, reading on their own, learning along the way. Our patients, unluckily, they go through a lot of the processes, and they may actually be on different clinical trials as well. So there's a lot of learned information. Participating in advocacy work and, through direct engagement with member organisations. That's how they find out about them. So some of the topics that we asked about, if these topics, we were happy to look at other topics as well, but what is it that you would like the focus to be? So overwhelmingly, it's clinical trials terminology. So again, we do need to go back to basics. We're quite an educated group, but we do need to go back to basics and say, what is the terminology around clinical trials? What does phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 mean? All of that stuff that we take for granted, actually a lot of people, a lot of patients don't know, and nor have they needed to know either. Statistics in clinical trials, what do they mean? Clinical trials protocol and procedures, they would like to know more about that, and how to identify the practice-changing clinical trials. What are the ones that they feel really will change the landscape or the patient outcomes the best, not just the ones that are nice to have and maybe more clinical or investigator-led. So that is my little, just a brief update on the research committee, and it's a work in progress, and we will keep on keeping you updated on that. I think our key things next will be to get the website up and running, and we'll be working with the communications chair on that one.